I was half expecting Gus and Ollie to do the psych thing where they come across a dead body and then start screaming. Hello there, my name is Zoe, I am your host and I am narrative and lore obsessed, and today we are tackling episodes 15 and 16 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. My video covering episodes 1 through 14, yes I did that all in one episode, will be linked in the card and in the doobly-doo, so make sure to go and check that out. Episode 15 opens up with the group catching up over breakfast the night after Dorian and Cyrus have absconded on Lord Esteros's airship, and of course they are grieving in the only way they know how. I really like that Travis is giving physical gifts to his friends based on what their characters are asking for, and he gives Ashton, it's a moldable hand like what you used to use in art class to like figure out how hands work and how you sketch them. There are people who actually post the kits that we think Travis is getting off of Amazon, so if you're interested in that, yeah, I will find some links to wonderful Twitter sleuths who are just the best. Lord Esteros comes in wearing his fantasy Uggs, and the party once again asks why people are trying to kill him. He is often very vague on this point, except for one time where he lets fly that he was responsible for putting away 200 members of the Ivory Syndicate back when he was a mercenary, which, yeah, okay, but that would make some people pretty mad. We haven't gotten a lot of information on the Ivory Syndicate, but what information we do have is that they are a smuggling ring who operates within Drusar, and obviously not everybody likes them. They're very much at odds with the Hubot Corsairs, and we like the Hubot Corsairs, remember? The party then decides that they should probably get their marching orders from Janna Hexam so that they can do whatever weird bet thing she's got going on out in the wilds, but on their way over there they are intercepted by none other than the Green Seekers.
I really like the Green Seekers. I think they're fantastic. I love them, I love them, I love them, I love them.
The moment at the ball where Ollie smacks Gus, I swear that was Matt's best impression of the guy who plays Sean in Psych, and I can't remember that. I think that they're Psych stand-ins. They're detectives with a lot of special skills, and one of them is named Gus. What else am I supposed to think?
Matt, are they Psych stand-ins? Matt, did you put Psych in Exandria? Is Psych Exandria canon? Because I would love that so much.
Gus and Ollie aren't attempting to pass themselves off as psychic detectives, but, you know, they still have some pretty interesting skills. Matt also gives the description that these guys are very good at, like, reading body language and picking up on very small details, which is, again, basically what Psych's whole premise is on. It's a guy who's passing off his very, very good observation skills as psychic skills instead. Apparently being hyper observant is less likely than him being a psychic. They find a bench, a cone of silence is cast around them, or at least that's what I'm calling it. I'm really proud of Imogene at this point because even though she has crippling social anxiety, she steps up and she begins to take her rightful place as the party face. Having a character with crippling social anxiety have the highest charisma score, I think is hilarious, and that might be a mechanic that I have to play around with some. Fern is the one who initially lets the whole Shade Creeper thing slip, but Imogene rolls with it, letting the Green Seekers know that they're not in opposition to what the Green Seekers are attempting to pull off. They are actually allies who may have very interesting and very useful information so the Green Seekers can finally get a breakthrough on their case. Gus and Ollie still have their walls up, so the group decides that they're gonna go with them into these mines where Gus has a contact. And by contact, we mean X. This draws another connection back to Psych for me because the Gus in Psych the series was often plagued by bad choices in romantic partners. His picker was just bad. In fact, he very often fell in love with the murderer in the episode, which was never good. When they get to the mines, it appears that Ogdus isn't the murderer. Ogdus could still be a murderer, and that would just prove my point even more. There is a impromptu therapy session thanks to FCG. Ogdus is a little bit hurt that Gus is married to his work, which is understandable. Ogdus brings them to the foreman's office where they do the normal bust down the door, find him there, knock him out. They find a not very cooperative dwarf in there writing their own fiction and uncover evidence that says that House Treshy came in, asked the foreman to close the mines, claiming that it was an outbreak of some kind and just keep everybody out. Okay. Great, good. This is obviously not an outbreak, but sure. Once again, we have House Treshy at the forefront of a very weird thing happening in the city of Drusar. They're able to get down into the mines themselves and are immediately attacked by like 15 shade creepers. Nice little appetizer before big bad combat. Shade creeper cleanup completed. I'm gonna burp. Perfect. Chetney scouts ahead because he can go invisible. I love that Chetney can go invisible. Have I mentioned? As he scouts ahead into a different chamber, he pretty much immediately finds Ladymoth Cad wrapped in a slime cocoon, probably recovering from her encounter with the Bell's Hells the previous night. Remember, this is maybe 13 hours after the whole thing at the ball went down. Like, this is... Chetney rushes back to the group and they begin to make a plan to try and attempt to take Ladymoth Cad alive. Bringing back a living subject that is proof is always better. Oh boy, can we just please? They make a plan to use an amber cage that Gus and Ollie usually use to capture subjects and to clear out the rest of the shade creepers with a fireball, which should give them enough time to get out of there with their subject and back up to the top without having to take any more damage from shade creepers. This is a great plan, except for the fact that they get in there and then Ladymoth is gone. Jenny continues to scout ahead, and what he finds in the next room, I was half expecting Gus and Ollie to do the psych thing where they come across a dead body and then start screaming. Attached to the wall is a giant shade creeper queen who is able to communicate with Chetney telepathically. Good. Yay. As the group gets further and further into the cave, we find out that the Shade Mother can fly. Oh good, this is great. How can she fly? Why look, she has Broomstone attached to her abdomen. Remember Broomstone? So Broomstone was being smuggled out of one of Lord Esteros's warehouses, and this is where we first encountered Duggar, and we found out that he was smuggling Broomstone. Broomstone isn't mined, it's more recovered from the areas where the floating cities from the Age of Arcana landed. These are what kept the city aloft. They use massive chunks of it. We saw this back in A-Or with the Mighty Nine. Now it's very heavily controlled, a lot like plutonium, which is interesting on why it was being smuggled out. Considering their utter devotion to the Shade Mother, it's entirely possible that what's on her is what was recovered. On the other hand, House Treshy being at the bottom of the Shade Mother being able to do all of this stuff, maybe shift the focus a little bit more towards the Shade Mother is a decoy and a way to sow chaos so that House Treshy can employ a military force in the city and therefore control it. That brings up my personal question. What is the end game here? Because if it is military control of Drusar by sowing chaos, we're being a little heavy-handed, don't you think? Now we have a huge slug shade creeper queen underneath the city enslaving people using poisons and toxins, and then before that it was a wall mimic that was eating people outside of a theater, and then it was an archfey who apparently has made a deal with you which allows him to infect people with lycanthropy in the city. Oh good. Great, that's exactly what we need. Oh, that archfey also likes to animate furniture so that it attacks people. Oh, fun. Very good. At some point, you do tip the scales a little too far towards the chaos and it becomes big bad. This is just my personal theory, is that this is Treshy's motivation, but I don't think he's executing it very well. I think he's kind of being dumb, and he's definitely gotten in over his head if he's made a deal with an archfey. Luckily for the Greensleeves and for the Bell's Hells, they do manage to capture Ladymoth in the Amber Prison, which allows them to transport her. Now it's a game of keep away with, you know, added death. Despite Chetney getting almost crushed by a pillar, they managed to get out by ensnaring the Shade Mother in mining equipment using Orem's new lovely rope. I hope he gets another rope like that soon. Back up at the surface, pretty banged up because, oh my goodness, the Shade Mother is a tank and a half. Gus and Ollie are actually pretty happy with the way that Bell's Hells handled things and believe that they are probably not the culprits. They take Ladymoth back with the promise that they're going to clear Bell's Hell's name. The team retires to the Soot and Swill, where Pretty is, and yes, that's exactly as awkward as you would think. On her way out of the Shade Mother's den, Imogene managed to snag a large pink crystal that was sitting in a construct that looked eerily similar to the stuff that was in the Nightmare King's laboratory. The pink stone in her hands is interesting. It leaves kind of a sour taste in her mouth, and it feels like something that wants to sit near you and make you into something better. FCG isn't able to cast Identify on it, so instead of waiting until later, Imogene opens up her mind to it.
What are you doing?
I'm just gonna go into a corner and sit with the stone in front of me, and I'm just gonna try to open up my mind to it.
Oh boy.
And take my mind shield down and like,
I don't
just
want to
see.
have to kill you.
As she sits with her mind open, she recognizes that yes, this does feel eerily similar to the magic that was cast around her by the Nightmare King. Oh yes, that one, Ira Wendigoth. To her, it feels warm and comforting because remember, Imogen is Fae touched, and though Imogen herself might not know it, that Laura does. And Imogen falls asleep, cradling it. This is obviously a cliffhanger, and I'm going to pick it up in episodes 17 and 18 in just a second, but I do want to touch really briefly on the Nightmare King. So the Nightmare King, as of what we have right now, seems to be an archfey that House Treshy has made some kind of a deal with, some kind of a deal that would grant them power, more power than they already have within the city of Drusar. Fern knows the Nightmare King from stories that were told to her by her grandmother back in the Feywild, as someone who likes to take nature and twist it. I've been doing some research, and it looks like Dimension 20 has also done some campaigns surrounding the Nightmare King, and I am currently getting caught up on that and trying to figure things out there. Do I think that Dimension 20 will eventually have a crossover episode? I would love that, actually. I really like Brendan Lee Mulligan. I think he's a very talented DM, and he has done some collaborative work with Critical Role in the past. Actually, he was just in an Elden Ring one-shot with Critical Role. We're gonna get more into the Nightmare King at a later date. I want to make a hyper-focus episode on him. I think that's what I'm gonna call them. Basically, we're gonna be doing deep dives into various aspects, as well as doing these little miniature episode deep dive. Doing deep dive episodes like this while things are fully developed within the campaign is a little risky. I fully realize this, but I think it'll be fun. And I just want to do fun things and make fun things that make my brain happy, so that's what I'm gonna do. If there's a theory that you have that you want me to cover, just make sure to let me know in the comments. And with that, I would also like to remind you to like and subscribe if you have stuck around to this point. Thank you so much. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year, and if I do hit 1,000 subs, I will be eating this, and then I will do a live Q&A with my face burning. So, you know, that, yay, watch me eat fire noodles and die. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you super soon.